Hello, gonna play some 3-minute on Lichess, try to get over and stay over 2400, which I have failed to do so far. Looking to play some QGD Janowskis. I hope recently a video of mine went up on how to play it. So looking to play the Janowski and looking to play more Caro-Cans if possible. So let's start with a Caro-Can, just trying to get experience in this opening. Let's go for c5, try to undermine their pawns quickly. I think White's only really testing line here is to take. Now I get a sort of advanced French, except I can get the bishop out. Okay. I'm going to delay committing with my bishop because I don't actually know where it belongs. Alright, now I guess I'll go to g4. I think that's a little annoying. This diagonal can be a little bothersome for them. Maybe thinking about playing cd4 and then c5 again. Because why not? Just attack their center. Knight d4. Alright, I guess I'll play king d7. I think my king centralized is pretty useful. If I played c5, I thought knight b5 could be annoying, then maybe there I would just play king d7. But I like the idea of keeping my king in the middle. I think they have trouble opening up the position, and so my king can defend a lot of squares usefully. I think now maybe c5 and d4. They can come to d6, but I think at that point I just play knight c6. f7's defended, and then I will threaten to take, and they'll lose some time. So they're going to try to hit the d6 square two different ways. But now I can ask the question, how are you going to defend d5? I suppose I will question the knight. Maybe come to b4. I don't need to take. I think I can just... Now the knights are sort of tied together. So maybe knight b4, threaten c2. Because if this knight moves away, then this knight's loose. They might have f5 sometimes. I should worry about that. My computer's making noise. I restarted it in the hopes that it would stop whining, but perhaps that was hopeless. Apologies to the viewer. Let's pretend there's more than one. I'm on a2 as well. It's threatening knight c2. I think they probably have to go a3. Alright, they're looking to trap my bishop with f5. Okay. I could insert bishop d3. Is there a problem with that? Start by inserting bishop d3. Get my bishop off a potentially trappable square. And then maybe play a quick h5. Because if I can inconvenience their pawns, then my bishop will have safe squares. I have hung f7. This is a disastrously bad way of playing. Now, the knight is pinned to their rook, so I don't mind this. But now I can come back and defend f7, and they're still pinned, and I have time to save my knight by going to d3 or c2. So I think I blundered, but they were kind enough to blunder back here. Maybe I'll come to a7, because if I get rid of one of the knights, the other knight can't sit here because I can just trade for it. So I think knight a7 is a good idea. They don't really have threats that I see, so I'm just going to question the knight. Now, do I want to trade my dark squared bishop for the other one? We could get into an opposite bishop position that is potentially dangerous. I'm going to start by taking. I could take back bishop. I kind of like that. Breaks up my pawns, but I'm on a3, and sometimes I threaten d3. If they give me a chance, I think I'll just play bishop f5 and hold this pawn. I don't see why not. Why give them a pawn when I don't have to? Probably rook c8 coming, and then maybe the bishop retreats. Okay. I like trades right now for me, because it helps my other rook swing into the game. My bishops, I think, are very good, and their king is not so good. Maybe I should have already been looking at d3 and bishop e4. Alright, so let's first make that bishop look very difficult to defend. If bishop d3 check, they take. That's important. If bishop b4, how do they save the bishop? I don't see it. Bishop d3, my idea was to drive away the defender, but of course it did hang a piece. And now I think black's winning. And I think White played the opening wrong. I think one of the maybe bishop takes to have discoveries. I think one of the benefits of playing... They can probably take on f5, because if I take g3, they take back knight. So on knight f5, I'll probably just play ef5 and say, fine. You got your rook out, I'm still at peace. But I was going to say, I think this, that seems not a helpful move for them. Discovered check. Could throw in bishop e4, but I don't see what it does. You can take pawns, I think. I'm going to try for checkmate. Push them back with the bishops. Guess bishop f3, bishop e3, rook a1. Or I'm just threatening rook a1 now, yeah. Okay, 1 for 1. Let's give them one more. But I think if you are going to play the advanced Caro, you have to be ready to take on c5 there, or they just get nice version of the French. And apparently they're a Caro-Kann player. I was looking at this knight d2 move. I don't really know what it does, but the idea is I can play these g4 lines with my knight on a slightly different square than usual. Does that matter? I can't really tell you. Normally the idea is knight c3 and then g4. But potentially there are some useful differences. Right, now I quite like my position. I think I'll... Should I take on g4 or play bishop d3 first? I think I'll take on g4 first, just so they don't have time to insert their queen on one of these squares. Then maybe I don't care about that, because I always have knight f3 now, because I've put my knight on this unusual square, and I'm already loving this. My knight on c3 would be locked out of the game. My knight on e2 is going to come to f3 and g5. This looks disastrous for black. Rook h6 was another mistake, because I can immediately attack their defender. But after... Oops. No, I don't want this. Okay. After knight e7, defending g6, I'd have knight f3, and then knight g5 coming, I take e6. I can take h6, but I can also just play knight g5 check. Which looks even better. This knight on d2 has performed miracles compared to the knight on c3. Now I win their queen. And the rook. Yeah. Okay, 2 for 2. So, there's this standard line with, if we go to the analysis board, we go knight c3, or e6, g4. This has been seen, as you can see in the online database, many, many, many times. I find, though, that the knight doesn't have a ton of prospects here. The main reason the knight comes here is because the immediate g4, either the bishop could come back if wanted, and then this pawn doesn't really have targets, white's not pushing against much, it feels kind of like a weakness, or it could come to e4 and force f3, which feels pretty weakening too. And, kind of gets in the way of white's pieces. So normally knight c3 is played, and the point of knight c3 is both it controls e4, so when g4 is played there's no bishop e4, and just to wait a turn and let black close in their bishop. I've always found this move annoying though. I think bishop d3 is best for white, but I've never believed white gets anything here. So knight d2, we have the same point, we cover e4, we wait a turn to get g4 against h6, and against queen b6, we can switch plans, play knight b3, and try to get this lockdown on their key break. Play bishop e3, and just keep control of that square. Only after will we start going kingside. And so because it works better against queen b6, I haven't really explored how it works against e6. This was just a trial game without much preparation. I assumed it worked similarly. If h4 now, h5 is very annoying. h5, if I take, black just, wins time against my queen. If I play g5, then the kingside's totally closed. They can easily prevent my only break. They have a break, I don't. Black's just better. I had a tournament game against, I think he's an IM, where I played h4 because I just didn't remember the theory. This was in the knight c3 version, and he thought a bit and played h5, and, I just got slaughtered. So knight e2 is the move, and the point behind knight e2 is, as we saw in the game, when h5 is played, this bishop's not so well defended. White is knight f4, it gives time to defend, and it gives sort of a triple attack on this pawn. And black usually plays bishop h7 and sacks a pawn. So this knight d2 is really appealing to me because it accomplishes a lot of what knight c3 is supposed to, but it is much better at meeting queen b6. I suspect the downside is I no longer have good defensive d4, and so I suspect critical is after knight e2 is c5. It seems to me this is very likely to be critical because my pawn is less well defended than normal. Otherwise, it's really hard to find a drawback to d2. My bishop's usually not coming out immediately anyway. I like the idea, and I think it's a very sneaky weapon that I don't know if anyone really knows about. Alright, 2 for 2. Gonna look for the Verozin, I always forget what it's called. I like ed6 there for black. The idea is to just get everything off the long diagonal, get my center well defended, and then this is supposed to be a pleasant endgame. I think bishop c4, and I have this queenside majority. I'm going to play knight f3 or knight e2. I'm going to castle. Maybe e2. Ah, knight f3. I'm supposed to play bishop e2. Okay, okay. I've screwed up already. Ooh. Maybe knight b5 is a little annoying for them. Yeah, okay, so shockingly, the Alekhine player knows a little more about the Alekhine than I do. But my bishop's supposed to retreat to e2 there. And it couldn't. And thus, black has won the 2 bishops. I don't mind my position. I have this potentially annoying knight going to d6 or c7. I have this advanced c-pawn, and if I can, somehow turn that into a passer, I'll be pretty pleased. Knight d6, their point's bishop c6. I was hoping they'd play bishop e6 and I'd retreat the rook and threaten knight c7. Well, maybe a4. That seems useful. If they take, I've advanced my, my queenside pawn significantly. If they don't, I've still advanced my queenside pawns in, I think, a useful way. Because I really should be trying to push them. That should be the goal here. Alright, so my knight on e2 is kind of stupid. I don't like it. It's not what I wanted out of this position. Do they threaten bishop d5? I think I can just play rook c3. Then knight e4. My rook lacks squares. Alright. If I play knight c3, I feel like my rook lacks squares too, but I feel these are critical squares to defend, so I'm going to try to hold on to them. If a6, I guess I'm going to try to occupy d6. Most likely just looking to back out, though. But they're going to get f5 there with so much tempo. Alright, we'll trade. And maybe bring the other knight into d6. Their 2 bishops are good. Ooh. Missed this? Okay. They have a5? They have a5, don't they? Ooh. Okay, let's try to just lose an exchange. Yeah, I think they've handled this nicely. And I will lose this one. Yeah. Not that it was like the decisive mistake or anything, it just meant I didn't have a normal opening advantage. But I do feel bad about knight e2. So I was threatening knight c7. Sometimes I threaten knight e7. I can take on b4. Their points... I'm not sure what their point is. But they did have to get out of knight c7. So I do have 2 pawns for the piece. I'm going to play h3. I probably should activate my rook quickly. Maybe g3 was better to stop f4 pushes. Yeah. Okay, I'll play g3 now. I want my bishop on e3. I don't see it having particularly good other squares. They really want to push it through. That's fair. f4 looks not good for me. So I'm going to try c6. Because I don't really see another thing to do, and it gives my bishop some squares. For instance, f4, maybe I can come to b6. Now, can I start getting my pawn rolling? I can try. Can I play rook b1? I don't think so. Yeah, I probably can. Because if they ever play rook c8, I have knight e7. So I can probably put the bishop on c5. No, they have rook c7. Okay. Let's get this pawn going. Try to get my bishop on b6. Fair point. Fair point. Alright, this doesn't work because they have rook c8 at the end. They missed it, though. We'll pretend I lost this game on the clock, not the board, but obviously this is... No, I lost this game on the board. Just don't have any squares to move to. Yeah. No squares. Alright, nicely played. Good game by Oleg Konov. 1 for 3. If we go back quickly, I think in this Alekhine, I've always liked white. E5 is a good move. If we... Yeah, knight c6 is played far too much and is not a good move. But if you look at the master database, e5 is the move, d5, d5, queen d8, rook d8, c5. Now bishop c4, knight c6, and knight f3 is played. Not knight e2. If we look after knight f3, you know, white has a little something. If we look after knight e2, black is better. And my opponent hit nicely with knight a5. And yeah. So, knight f3. And the point is, on knight a5, the bishop comes back to e2. If not knight a5, white is also threatening things like knight g5, which I wasn't threatening after my knight e2. So just didn't know where the pieces belonged, and made a bad choice where my knight got in other pieces' way, and I just didn't have a good feel for where the pieces belonged. There's someone who had the description of Karpov as a fantastic positional player, but not necessarily an amazing, you know, for his all-time phenomenal level, strategic player, but just that he always put the pieces on the right squares and just had a really good feel for where all the pieces belonged and an incredible ability to justify moves by immediately seeing short-term tactics. Sadly, we do not appear to be getting a Janáčský this video. This is our 4th game. I'm looking to just play g6, bishop g7, get castled. I don't care if they take on d5, I can regain it later. They don't have any pawns that can support it. They'll at some point move the light-squared bishop, and at some point I will take on c4, try to win time. I do not care if they win the d5 pawn. I don't believe they can hold it. Now, I can play a6, b5, bishop b7. I can also just play knight d7 to b6. Alright, they really want to hold the pawn. I can't really play rook b8 because of bishop f4. So did they get anything by trying to hold the pawn? Unclear. Would be rather a shame if I spent so long saying I don't care about it, only to find that I really cared about it. Ah, yeah. No, they're playing this nice. Now I don't have the a6, b5 option ever. They have the b5 square for their knight if they want it. I guess I'm going to try to trade off one of their defenders. And now I'm sort of looking at d4. Castling makes sense. Maybe rook c8, making sure I have knight c4, so the knight can move somewhere where my queen doesn't have to defend it. If I play knight f6, I assume they play knight f4. Their knight right now defends the pawn. As soon as my knight moves, their knight doesn't have to and can come defend the other pawn. So the specifics of this position seem to be working out pretty well for them. Okay, but now their knight can't come to f4, so how are they going to defend d5? They're going to give d5 back in a way they think is favorable. Ah, interesting. So they want to win the pawn, so they are paralyzing it to make it a permanent weakness. I think this opponent is doing a number of smart things. I'm going to play rook e8. If knight b5, I now take e2. Okay, I don't like that move so much. I thought the bishop was doing good work on its previous diagonal. Now don't I have knight d2? They might still be doing okay here, but I think they went from handling the strategic nature of the position very well to handling the specific tactics of the position not very well. I'm now on e2. So if they move their c3 knight with a discovery, I'm not too worried. Yeah, I thought they were playing this really, really nicely. And I guess now I do not think that. I'm going to go knight g4, just get on their bishop so they don't have discoveries on the b2 rook. And also, if my knight comes to e5, I think that's a pretty nice square for my knight to sit on. Can't do a lot about d6, but I think I can still play knight e5. Ooh, okay. Guess rook b4, but I've just blundered f4. Yeah. Do I have anything sneaky I can do? Alright. No, I don't think I do. Yeah, f4. I have a check! Might be mate. Not mate. Now, at least I'm on their knight. Alright, let's play this optimistically. Oh no, this is horrible. For some reason I thought they had to take on d6. I completely missed this possibility, and it is very strong. If king h6, queen e3 check, and I have to go back, and then they have rook takes f7. Ooh. If king g8, ef7, if king f8, queen h8, and rook f7, or rook f7 first. Yeah, I guess I gotta go this way. Queen e3, g5, rook f6, king g7, queen g5, I can resign. So I have to meet queen e3 with king g7, and then I have rook f7, king g8, queen c3. And I'm okay there because I have queen b1, and I can trade my... I'm not okay. But I might have queen b1 at the end of that line, at least forcing their rook off. I'm surely lost in that endgame with 2 rooks for the queen and the knight. But if I get that, I will be relatively happy here because everything else looks worse. Okay. Huh. This doesn't feel as lost. I have to go fast. I have to hope they hang something on the back rank. Like move their knight so I can play queen f1. But this doesn't feel like I immediately have to give up. I need to get my rook back in the game, and I'm not sure how. But maybe rook b4. Okay. And go to g7. They can force a draw, but I don't see that they can do more. And I am very happy with the draw after how this just went. Okay. They never have d4 check, which is important. I threaten rook f7. Did they find something? Yes. They did. Nicely done. Okay, let's let them play the mate. Yeah. Alright, well done then. That was a nice finish. And we are 2 for 4. And under 2400 again. Alright. Thought they played the strategy well. They found a nice tactic at the end. I really blundered the both the strategy at the start and the tactics in the middle. Alright, so sadly no QGD. Didn't see d4 today. I'm just going to take this. There's some lines here, but I think... The point is on gh7, they just play king f8. But I like queen f5, threaten mate on f7. And then I think I can play... What's the exact move order? gh7 threatens queen g6. Okay, they allowed it. Now I'm just up a bishop. Delightful. And they didn't grab my rook. So I am very pleased. If you're going to play these b6 things, you should probably know the lines. I mean, the point's to win an exchange. If you don't win an exchange, I don't know. Things haven't gone well. They don't have e4. They don't have queen e7 because of queen takes. It's probably not good. Just stick my bishop on g6, I suppose. Maybe play knight c3 next if d4 castles queens. That's probably more risky than I need to be. Alright, I'm going to make sure my bishop stays defended on all lines. Missed this. But I'm not particularly worried. I'll centralize the rook. No need to hit the queen. It's going to relocate anyway shortly. So I may as well have my rook on a square I think's better in d1 than b1. I often just automatically play the attack on the queen, and I'm fairly proud of myself that I didn't here. Maybe a weird thing to be proud of, but I think finding better moves than the kind of automatic things you do is something worth emphasizing. Can I take on e4? Almost. Okay. Play queen f4, hit c7. No need to be fancy, and I don't think it worked, but it was close to working. See, now knight e4, d4, queen e4, queen e5, queen takes e5 is checkmate. That's very cute. Of course, queen takes c7 is better, I think, but knight takes e4. That's fancy. Is it too fancy? Should I not do it? Yeah, I should not do it because of queen b4. Okay, so we'll take c7. Guess throw one more check in. Keep the knight pinned. Now maybe knight e4? They have queen e5 though. Shit. Oops. Didn't mean to swear. Yeah. Maybe I have f3. If pawn takes rook d7 or queen d7. Queen d7's mate. So is rook. Alright, they just resigned. Okay, what was the finish? I can also just play f4. f4 looks good, right? Because then the queen's hit, they can't take immediately because the bishop's on it. f4, where's the queen go? Can't go to d6, can't go to c7. Could go to e6, but then I'm just going to be up oodles of material. So I guess the more interesting part is to look back at the opening. I think these f5 lines just aren't good. There's kind of two ways to deal with it. So knight f6 loses cutely to gh7, knight h5, bishop g6 mate. That's worth knowing. So black players play bishop g7. And the point is, if gh7, king f8, it's actually a little tricky to win this as white. For instance, hg8, king g8. I know the computer's saying white has a good position, but if you look practically, black scores really well here. After king g8, black is scoring, over 60%. That's huge. Black's going to win an exchange, and it's not obvious where white's compensation is. The squares to attack are just not obvious at all. So one way to learn to play against this is to play gh7, king f8, and knight f3 here. And knight f3, you'll see, does score well. The computer likes it. And the point is, we don't have to take there, but when we play it to g6, we do hit g2. And if the bishop comes to h1, then there's this really cool bishop h6, not bringing in the knight immediately, but threatening checkmate. And if rook h7, knight g5 is good? Ah, yes, because they can't take here because of mate on f7. If bishop takes h6, queen h6, king f7, knight g5, king e8, bishop g6 is mate, or queen g6 to f7. Lines are very complicated. White has to know this bishop h6 move exists. Bishop f3 thus seems a little more circumspect, but then white's going to crash through on h7, and again, rook takes h7. Supposed to not work. I guess, yeah, queen g3 makes sense with a discovery here and hitting here. But it's very complicated. White really has to know what they're doing, making this, a pretty effective weapon as black. You can see in the database after bishop g7, black has a plus score. So I learned queen f5 is a kind of simple way to face this. The threat is queen takes f7. Knight h6, of course I take it. Black doesn't have time to take the rook as a mate, so knight f6 is forced. And then I couldn't remember bishop h6 or gh7's order, and I settled on gh7 as less committal, so clearly I didn't know what I was doing. Because after gh6, bishop h1, I was now going to play bishop h6, but they can just take on h7 and they have everything defended. But if I play bishop h6 first, bishop h6, gh7, they don't have time for bishop h1 because of queen g6 check, take h6, get a nice game. So that's what I was hoping for, but I got the order wrong. I did want to play bishop h6, but I thought I'd go the simple way with gh7, and that blows it. Alright, what did I go? 3 for 5? Seems reasonable. Cheers. Did I finish over 2400? No, I did not. So next video will be another struggle to get over 2400 and actually stay there.